form of Z80, 8085, or 286. Possibly many of you must have not seen it. Now, basically, when you look into the way the technology has changed as such, okay, it's a U sees change in the technology. Those days, computer was called GIGO. When GIGO stands for anybody as such, yeah. So those days it was called garbage in, garbage out. So that was the age wherein intelligence was fed into the computer, and intelligence was getting built into the computer by us as such, wherein all the applications were getting served onto the platform. But today, after about 30 years as such, I'm not sure whether the GIGO definition stands as such as now. It should be more that good in, good out, because whatever data is coming in is data is going out. The day has come wherein all the data which is collected, it's an era of intelligence and bringing and extracting the intelligence from the data as such. So basically, if you see, well, the entire structure has changed, wherein what was called as garbage is now full valuable data which is being used to do all the analytics part of it, and which is getting reused and recycled as such. So like garbage was recycled, this data is definitely going to get recycled and churned n number of times, which is really, really a good sign of such. So basically in this era, I just want to ask is that the basics have not changed. The fundamentals still remain the same. Security has changed from IT security to network security to digital security and now cyber security. The word security stands firm, except the words have been changed in the initial. But what is the basics? The basics fundamental still remains the same, which is CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I just want each of the panelists' thought on how possibly you perceive in this area when you have moved from 80s to 2000 now.
So, Santosh, you're very right that things have not changed, right? So, both part, like fundamental has not changed, the things and the scenarios have drastically changed. In the era of, say, network security, data was important, and today, whether it is a cloud or whether it is a IoT or whether it is database security or whether it is application, any kind of security we are trying to really protect, what we are protecting is basically data, which is bits and bytes. The hackers are after these bits and bytes. This could be personal information, this could be financial information, or this could be anything. And the base of all these algorithms or the securities or the networks is basically mathematics. So if we really see from the academic and research point of view, all these research are primarily based on the math, because math is the language through which you can speak to the universe and you can really create the product. And of course, there are a lot of abstractions has happened. There are a lot of layers is on top of that, that nobody has to really deal with those good or ugly or bad mathematics part of that. Now, if we see like even the way things have changed, today with data, why data has become important. Earlier, neither we were collecting that amount of the data, nor we had those sophisticated technologies through which we can really mine the data. Now, thanks to 3G, 4G, and now 5G is on the way, and thanks to social media and emails and Googles and internet, all our data is available out there on the net. Knowingly or unknowingly, while we are talking, this whole session is going on YouTube. Our mobiles are on, though maybe on silent mode. The Vodafone or Jio or anybody else knows plus minus 5 meter accuracy where we are sitting. So any threat actor can activate, say, drones and kill us and attack us, right? They know precisely what time you eat, what you don't eat. And while we are speaking, somebody sitting at back can analyze our emotional state. They can analyze whether I am lying, bluffing, or do really have any knowledge or not. So even your emotional state can be analyzed not post-mortem but in a live scenario. Now, is it good or it is bad? Both the side. Depends on who's doing the analysis and who's holding the data. Now Facebook is holding the data, but Anand, you were talking about Great Hack, right? Now today Ayodhya verdict is there. Now this whole information is out there. Facebook essentially can really manipulate the behavior, or if not Facebook, somebody using the data can manipulate the behavior, instigate fear, which can really lead into the violence or chaos or those kind of stuff. Now, so earlier though it was network security or cloud security, but now it has gone far beyond that. This whole security paradigm has gone into the mental security, right? Wherein somebody can really alter my behavior. This is the last fear. I don't care you really steal my information, because in the old era of the king's era, the king used to know where you live and what you eat and what you don't eat. What I am afraid that yes, somebody can really influence my behavior and showcase me what I am liking or what I am not liking, and keep on feeding me so that I become a monster or a bad guy or a good guy. That's what my biggest fear with this whole whatever you want to really call it, cyber security era or digital era or machine learning era or AI era.
Yeah, I do agree on that. I do agree on that, but with respect to the data as such, well, it cannot be avoided because we want to use the data.
Right.
What is primarily important is that, well, how we still ensure that the security is deployed on a need to know, need to do basis, and at the same time, data is available when you want it. So with respect to all these technologies which are floating around, one is to decide that, well, how much needs to work on, and what are the things we need to achieve to ensure CIA is there at the same time maintained. Your thoughts, Steve?
Sure. So, very rightly pointed, CIA is the core essence to an organization, frankly speaking. And when it comes to confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the biggest challenge, frankly speaking to you, and this is, I believe that the conversation, the panel discussion that we are having is for the students who are all the freshers or the senior professionals who want to have a better career in organization. So what I want to put up is, I want to put up scenarios, I want to enhance and give a real-time examples like what we actually are looking in organizations. We are looking for some valuable talent who can provide us with excellent resource in the area that we require. But when I say, let's say I need a guy in pen testing, what I'm expecting? I'm expecting him to do a detailed amount of research and detailed amount of analysis of whichever assessment is being assigned to him. But what exactly is missing from the audience, or not audience, from the cyber security community right now, is the ability to write reports. Today I see consultants, today I see security professionals are having a very different attitude when it comes to write report. And when it comes to find out vulnerabilities, are finding out excellent amount of vulnerabilities. I see my colleagues or friends are having a ranking on the top 500s on Hack the Box, on Pentester Academy, or on Bug Bounty. But what has happened is the environment, the professionalism, somewhere I see is missing with my cybersecurity community. What kind of professionalism I'm expecting? Let's say if I go and have a client-side meeting, how my professional pen testers should dress? They should be in a formal pattern code. If some big organization, they should dress with a suit and blazer. But when it comes to that thing, they have a very different approach. They would be coming up dressing with the t-shirts and with bug bounties thing, which is completely fine. But if you need to convince a client, you need to show him business level vulnerability, because technical vulnerabilities the CISO is not going to understand. The CISO is considering, let's say he needs to explain to his senior authorities, the board, that look, there is an SQL injection vulnerability. Will the board understand the SQL injection vulnerability? But if the CISO just uses 2-3 words, something threat to brand reputation, threat to business impact, or financial loss, immediately the board will be sitting, what do you want? And right now, that mentality for adding that essence, yes, there are professionals. So there are two things I expect. One is that we aren't having a density or shortage of expertises or experienced professionals. Those are there. But the only problem that I see is those the people at the age group from 20, 25, 30 aren't having that relationship with the senior professionals. If those guys can come up and have that kind of understanding and the seniors can guide them, it can be the excellent journey that can be taken up.
Yeah, so to add to that, you said that whether it's IT driving the business or whether business is driving the IT. Now, on one side, well, it's the business which comes on priority as such, but the entire business is IT driven. When the entire business is IT driven, and at the same time you have to achieve this CIA, at the same time you talked about, Arvind, you talked about the possible hurdles in your earlier section, when there are possible hurdles with respect to bureaucracy and with respect to usage and with respect to so many sorts of tools to be deployed, because the business does not look from that side. The business looks only from the revenue part which is coming, and it's the headache of the CISO or CTO to handle those. So how you see that the balance is achieved with this respect to achieving CIA at the same time ensuring business is driven?
I think so. One point which is very clear, an organization's existence in the society itself has never changed, and that objective of the organization, why it exists, is to make money, right? Any business that you do, whether you are in banking, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in security business, the organization's existence in the society is solely to make money. It can do all other things, as ancillary to, as CSR or how it is contributing to the betterment of the society and of the environment, everything. But unless it's a not-for-profit, an organization exists to make money. Now, when we are talking about CIA, right? What has changed is CIA itself hasn't changed, but everything around it has changed, and that is where its definition or its importance today is much more important, right? Confidentiality. If I move from organization and talk about people, I think people, what I considered confidential, or what a person who is today 50 years considered confidential, the younger generation is open to share it with all, right? What he is eating, where he is, what he is wearing. So he doesn't feel that I need to keep it confidential, right? So confidentiality is required, but it's thought of what needs to be confidential, what does not, has changed. Even from an organization, we are talking about Facebook, and fortunately, unfortunately, whether Mark Zuckerberg likes it or not, Facebook will remain a core because of its platform and the amount of data today it carries, right? And we talk about how it is being used in various scenarios. So integrity, now if you hear, I don't know if you got a chance to hear Tim Cook's video at the Stanford, right? He spoke that integrity has to be in the person who's building the platform, which is resulting in all the mess, right? So he has to be integrated. If his integrity is compromised, platform's integrity does not matter, right? That is where integrity has now moved to a management because of the technology. It is not only a person with integrity doing a business, but how it is using that information, what information it is collecting, how it is protected that information. So integrity, I think, has moved up. Availability, of course, with the penetration or dependence on of the business on technology is increased. So availability importance of availability has increased. As I said, I was giving the example of the downtime that I can afford. So again, that availability and the amount of availability of the technical systems has become much more important in today's world.
Okay, so basically what we are trying to say is that CIA indeed is required, but at the same time it all depends upon the risk appetite of our organization to see that how much an organization is able to sustain or address the risk as such, or at the same time control the risk. So basically, well, irrespective of what type of data is flowing within the environment, it's basically the value of the data and how important is the data basically depends upon how the data is overall classified with the environment, based on in which the entire CIA has to worked out so that the security is worked on need to basis. Okay, I'll move to the next question as such. We talked about people, process, technology, which again goes hand in hand whenever we talk about security. Well, of the three, the process part is again driven by business requirements, is driven by standards requirements, is driven by regulatory requirements. So basically, there are three different criteria on which the processes are being defined, which definitely will change as the organizations transition or migrate to different business requirements and to address the regulatory requirements. This will lead to change in the technology because technology is enabler and all the controls which are to be deployed for whatever controls which are there from the cybersecurity front are technology dependent. So these controls are again going to change. So when we consider the change which is driven from the process, the change which is driven from the technology, and people who are either the end users or the people who are supporting in implementing these changes. So in this scenario, wherein the ever evolving digital platform, which is the smart platform which is getting evolved, where we have a combination of the legacy traditional IT environment and the new generation digital environment, which is the Internet of Things, or last week, in fact, there was an article of Airport of Things, which is also there, which is there. So wherein in this such environment, how do you embrace, at the same time, how do you manage the challenges of managing the people, both from the user environment, both from the security deployment environment, and both from the business purpose and the business purpose? How do you manage these challenges and ensure that the challenges are addressed and teams are enabled to address those?
So, you rightly said people are the most important thing because people create the technology, people create the processes, and people create the law. And it is people who only break the law, who only put the vulnerability in the technology and create the weak technology so that they can really exploit those stuff. Now there are multiple ways. I don't have as such a ready reckoner that this is the way we can really manage people and change them. But I think the only way to really manage your people is to really educate them, give them more information. Just like a machine learning algorithm, if you give them the, say, small data, the algorithm may behave in a biased fashion. So if you want algorithm to really give you the right results, you need to really give enough amount of the data and keep on feeding more of the data. And likewise, human beings. So, for example, to give you a to prove you the point, somebody who just knows hacking and he want to really make money, he might think that hacking is the easy way to really make money. But if you give him more tools and more knowledge, that every activity he is doing and whatever the hacking tool he might have downloaded, that tool also might be sending the details about him. And he is leaving every single digital trace on the net or in the digital world, which a smarter or intelligent person can actually use the same information to track him back. And some or other day he can really be caught, and whatever the money he will make or take the vengeance or revenge, he will end up behind the bars, right? If we really educate them, if we really give them the half of the information that yes, this tool is available free of cost or 100 rupees, and through which IQ can really hack into somebody's mobile phone and steal the credit card information, this is half of the information. If we really give them the more information, perhaps we can really manage them. So the idea is that we really create and give knowledge more about the laws, more about how the laws are going to really change. Like, for example, today, even when we are teaching in the cybersecurity data science, although the GDPR kind of scenario is emerging here in India, it is stable, it has still not come. But our data scientists and cybersecurity guys need to be prepared that the way they are using today data, they may not be able to use in 6 months down the line or a year down the line, the moment these laws comes into the picture. At the same time, they also need to really know the technology, right? And through technology, how they can really monitor the behavior of the human being. So one of the experimentation which we are running and which she was over here, she along with the students, she did an experimentation wherein they captured the video footage of the students and the faculty member. And through this video footage, they are able to really build a model wherein they can really track whether the student is attentive or not, whether he is sleeping or not, And plus, we also have the structured data about their grades, the log data, how much time they're spending on the some content or not, right? Their attendance and everything. So combining the video data along with the structured data what we have, we could actually predict whether this person is likely to fail in network security or machine learning or not. Now, let us bring back this to the organization, right? You can actually check. So, your mother or my mother can really still predict whether we are liking something or not, or under we are stressed or not, because she has the data about us even before we were born. And that data makes our mother much more intelligent other than the emotion, because emotions are also data. Now, if this kind of insight we give it to the machine, we can actually predict whether Smith has entered into the office at 12 in midnight for work or to steal information, right? Because we can read the face, and that can really trigger it. That can really trigger, because machines are extremely good, specifically deep learning, to really go deep down into the layers of your facial expressions. They can really read those micro expressions. So coming back on a practical way, that yes, computer vision, deep learning is the way forward through which, beyond the biometrics, we can really read and build the human behavior model, and we can really raise the alarm that this time this person is somewhere into a different mindset. Imagine that, again, sorry, I'm making you villain, Smith, that I have, you're ethical person, but you have a family, right? So I really grab you out there and say, okay, Smith, just like old Hindi movies, right, where all heroes, mothers and sisters were like made hostage by the villains, that yes, your mother and sisters are with me and I am holding hostage, you bring me the data or I will shoot them down. Now, if you hear this information on mobile phone, your facial expressions will change. You'll not be as happy go-getter, right? And this information, 12 in the midnight, your boss cannot really read. Security guard can not read, because they are not your mother, right? So the moment you enter, even through your biometrics information, this will really send an alert, because the video camera is having the millions of your frames, picture frames, where they know what is your normal behavior. And they immediately see that this is something abnormal behavior, abnormal mindset you're entering, right? Maybe somebody, the camera doesn't know, the system doesn't know whether somebody is holding the gun or whether what is the state of mind, right? But this is not the right frame of mind. It means the guards need to really put an external watch on you, what exactly you're doing, right? So, but the technology can really
No,
play
no,
a lot.
I agree what you say, but what I'm trying to say is that technology is intelligent enough.
Yes.
Because technology has got all the necessary modules developed within
Yes.
it to address those area. What is important is that as we are trying to integrate old and new,
Right.
okay, how are the technology implementers coping with the skills to achieve that and bridge the gap, so that, well, the technology may be good, but at the down level there will be a gap within the implementers. Because if you see, about hardly 20 to 30% of the products features have been used by any organization as of now. So in effective, the product has all the capabilities, but because of the lack of skills or because of the lack of professional which is there, how exactly one should manage in an organization to bridge this gap?
Cool. So what I have been doing is nowadays I have also been studying enterprise architecture. So what I'm trying to explore when it comes to people particularly, what can we do to safeguard our employees, help them to be motivated, and also have a tendency that those guys are supportive, those guys will help us, and we are also trying to benefit them. So you see, there are multiple instances through multiple amount of layers, something like your governance layer, something like your legal layer, something like, then comes the another model where our technology is being driven, something called as zero trust. Zero trust is again a pretty amazing thing, where we are having a tendency not to trust the people, trust the technology, and not having a mindset of having a clear, not having a mindset of getting the key criticalities being sorted. The objective is pretty simple, that our understanding about the technology should be fine, and we should trust the technology rather than the people, and make sure that the technology in itself act as a patent oriented, or is serving the key fundamental process. Something like sir talked about AI/ML, something which can have an instance, something can provide me a predictive analysis. In fact, it can also be integrated with your DevSecOps as well. When you talk about DevSecOps, integrated security baseline controls. Integrated baseline security controls, what I am trying to refer is the moment your code is being developed, can I add the security parameters to avoid such incidents? Let's say Smith is coming in at the 12 o'clock to steal the data. Why Smith has got the access to visit the office at 12 o'clock in the night? Why can't Smith be denied the access after the non-office hours, let's say 6 o'clock in the evening? Right. So we'll have to understand that amount of tendency, and we'll also have to understand the governance layer as well. So if cyber security, what today I feel is like your chess game. If you understand the players, the technology as your players, and try to mobilize it, the amount of orchestration that can be created can be super cool. In fact, what has been done for this thing, recently I was reading an article, Azure has given you a CISO level dashboard controls. So that dashboard controls have synchronized the process, have simplified multiple amounts of areas that needs to be overlooked, or which were being overlooked earlier, now have been looked on a very critical scenarios. Its implementation is going to be a key asset. We are having all the technologies, but implementation won't be taking place. The only solution what I see for implementation is to have multiple amount of awareness campaign, not awareness from third party people like we come up and walk in, but giving the employees the amount of exposure they want. For an example, ask your employees to go and attend meetups, community meetups, conferences. They will come up with some new ideas. Discuss those ideas internally. If I am sending my friends to some conference, I make sure that those guys should write the other speakers what they are trying to talk about. Then they should come at my organization and should explain the same to my internal audience, and then there should be something fruitful coming out of it. These are some basic fundamental practice that I believe we can take up.
Yeah, I do agree on that, but we would like to focus on, well, in this ever increasing demand of ensuring security is achieved to the full. As we say, security cannot be achieved 100%. At the same time, security monitoring cannot be 100% at all, because there will be gaps left. In this ever increasing demand of this, how do you look into managing this environment of entire infrastructure from cybersecurity angle? How you would like to see, whether it is to be outsourced, insourced, or build the skills capability, or do it in a co-source environment so that it is run as a practice and run as a systematic, continuous, ongoing practice, not as a point of time practice?
I think if we move to the below level about whether technology should be outsourced, should be in-house, how it should be managed, there is no one formula that will work in all environments, right? That will vary from organization to organization. But I think for a holistic security, again, we will have to move to people and say awareness needs to be created. Awareness needs to be created for each and every employee on what the organization is doing, what information does it carry, where does it carry, how is it important, and how it can be used, how it can be misused, right? So that is for the general employees. Now, if I come to the people who are implementing security or implementing technology, we all have reasons to believe that the newer generation is much smarter than the older generation, right? I don't think anybody is debating that the newer generation is much, much smarter. And any generation, if I see my 2-year-old kid and my 6-year-old kid, I feel they are much smarter than me, than I was at that age, right? So people are certainly getting smarter. Now, how that smartness can be used is what needs to be managed, right? So the data points that are available to say today in today's times is limitless. With the internet, I think nobody refers to encyclopedia anymore and tries to search, or nobody goes to a dictionary and turns pages and tries to see in an alphabetical order where this word lies and what is it meaning, right? So something that if I did not know the meaning when I was in school and it took me 6 minutes, it takes 6 seconds or less than that, right? You can talk Alexa and you can ask her the meaning and she will bring it up to you. So the availability of information today with the advent of technology has been much faster. Now, how do you make use of that information will depend on how well you are aligned to the objectives. Right? I think that is the only thing that the management needs to do, is to align people to the objectives. If the objectives are well embedded into the mind of the people who are implementing, who are consumers, who are protecting, then it will become a task which is much more achievable. Otherwise, I see it as an impossible task. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's again, what you say, a point of debate, wherein what needs to be done first. And basically, again, it comes question of how much of security needs to get deployed or implemented, or possibly how much of things to be outsourced or insourced.
Sure.
The other thing which I would like to bring is that in an attempt to go from risk-aware approach to predictive, proactive, whatever you call it, approach, well, what is happening today? Organizations are investing in tools. Tools is carrying rich intelligence. In the process of implementing ML and AI and integrating data analytics as well as security analytics data, well, the L1 level activity is getting eliminated. In this scenario, when the L1 activity is getting eliminated, wherein we require higher end of skills to do, how do you see that the freshers which are coming out and the freshers which are coming out from different institutes, are they really able to do it? Or what sort of training will be definitely required for the investment for them so that they can do the job as required?
So, Santosh, I have a vast experience in terms of building up capability, and perhaps that's what I have done entire my life. Now, so I will touch upon this current question and the previous question, where there is a knowledge gap and capability gap which we are seeing in the organization. So there are two aspects. One, of course, the freshers which are coming out from the colleges, I'm not much concerned about them, because they're much smarter than what we used to be when we graduated from colleges, because there is enough information, there is enough material, there is enough resources for them to undergo and become capable to get a job. What I am concerned about, I'll come on that. What I am concerned about, the people, those who are typically your age and my age, and those who are heading the organizations, and most of them, they are still blindfolded and living in ignorance that yes, they know everything and they can really manage organizations in technology based on the 20 years or 30 years back knowledge we have acquired and the incremental knowledge which they are gaining. And that's where the major problem is. Infosys, today's news only, Infosys chucked out thousands of people, those who were in the mid-career range. I have been keep on interacting, and sorry to say, a lot of mid-career professions, those who are 35 to between 55, they have absolutely no idea what they are managing and what they are doing. Specifically, the areas which are disrupted, which is typically cybersecurity. No more cybersecurity is predominantly based on network security concept, which used to be, or data analytics. So they think that data science is perhaps is a rebundled, glorified form of data analytics, which is not so far, right? It is absolutely different thing. So on both the sides, so today what I see that the organizations need to really invest in people, those who have crossed 35, because a lot of L&D had told me that those who have crossed 35, they're actually redundant and we need to really check them out, but we can't really do that because our stock price will go down. And that is where the organizations need to really get away from certification to skill, what Milind was talking about. We need to really measure their skills and conduct executive programs, continuing programs. We need to really push them getting into the class, and that's where I am seeing that our cybersecurity and data science program, 30% of the candidates, they are typically 40 years plus. Now coming back to these fresh candidates, those who are coming from the colleges, of course, their cost of education is pretty high at this point of time. They are much more ambitious than what we are. Now they have to really grow in a 360-degree mode. They can't just really go and pick up one certification. That's what approach we have offered. Typically, there are two approaches in the market. One, go deeper into one area and do the certification. Our approach is increase your base, get the 360-degree understanding, and then specialize. So that tomorrow when you really go to the top, you actually understand the complete environment. Of course, you cannot be expert on network security or cyber security or information security or ethical hacking or pen testing or SOC or machine learning or deep learning or cryptography, all those areas. But all these areas are important for you to really head an organization. Gain the 360-degree knowledge in all those areas so that you understand and you can assemble a team and gain a deeper level knowledge through specializations in one of the area, right? It could be pen testing, it could be network security, it could be deep learning for the cyber security or any of these areas. So these are the two approaches perhaps we are following, building the capability on the top and mid management level and the freshers, and the difficult part is on the other side, not on the fresher side.
I think rightly and well said about that overall. So basically, I'd like to give an analogy with respect to the medicine area, wherein fresher coming out, possibly MBBS, possibly may have the basic exposure, but at the same time he may be lacking in the practical area, as a result of which generally a doctor to achieve specialization or super specialization, it crosses around 32 years, post which only he or she is able to do that. In such scenario, when we look into the cyber industry, I look in a similar area because you have got the environment too big, you have got too large technologies to handle, you have got processes to be matured, you have got technology to be matured. In this scenario, do we think that the Indian education system as such, the universities are able or are geared to handle this so that when we get professionals, they are ready to go and address these high priority items?
Frankly speaking, the answer from an Indian educational system is no. But when I see organizations like Aegis and all, those guys are working hard. Post-graduation programs or master's programs run by multiple universities are giving you an essence. But what is it like to do something after the graduation? You get some sense that yaar main master karne jata hu, and that time you get an idea. But why are you not doing it after completing your 12th or after completing your 10th? Frankly speaking to you, I want to raise a very important issue. Gentlemen, please realize one thing. You are going to be taken into an organization just because of one mantra, and that mantra is what value addition you're bringing to that organization. And now it can be corely focusing on one particular topic and going and deep diving into a research or working on multiple parameters, multiple pointers and showing them as a case study where you walked in as a consultant or any specific. What needs to be done is, the biggest challenge I see is not with the students, but with their parents. A real-time example is, बच्चा आ गया 9th में, चलो पढ़ाई करो. That guy has to do study for at least, he goes to college, school, let's say from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock. He comes in 2 o'clock, let's say, he comes in at 3 o'clock, then has to go to tuition from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, then has to do some college ka, school ka homework, tuition ka homework, 10 o'clock, sleeps at morning, wakes up at 7, regular thing, gets 95%, 92%. I'm giving I also want to ask you a question as well. 92% in 10th. Then goes, बच्चे ने 92 निकाला है, IIT करना है. Goes and you have to go and give your best. And then he goes for those exams like JEE, where the main market comes in, and then you have some kind of institutes and all who would be selling snake oil, I can tell you. And then there would be something like, those guys would be coming, and the guy who's sitting for some colleges and giving how much hours of his life? 18 hours he's giving, just studying. And what is he studying? Is he studying programming? Is he studying data science? Is he studying cybersecurity? Is he studying pen testing? Is he studying cyber forensic? Is he studying big data, cognitive intelligence? Is he studying और क्या बचा है? Blockchain? नहीं, वो study कर रहा है बहुत पुराना fundamentals. And then he gets how many marks? 86%. And he is not able to clear IIT, but he is able to get some better marks in CET, let's say 150. And then goes to college. Engineering करना है, मेरा बेटा engineer है, someone asks, right? And then they do engineering, And for the complete 4 years of engineering, they are just going to college, coming in, getting cleared, and they are getting percentage around 82 GPA or something. And then we get a resume. You know what is mentioned? In 10th, 92%. In 12th, it is 89%. In in engineering, 82%. And then that CV comes into an organization. Let's see if someone comes in with that kind of a CV to you, and there is another CV that you're getting who has just done his, let's say, BSc IT, and who has been acknowledged by 40 to 60 companies doing bug bounty like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Yahoo, but he doesn't hold any experience. Who will you take, this 92% person, or the guy who is being acknowledged by multiple organizations? And yes,
Yeah, so basically, as I said, certification, as you said, certification does not necessarily mean that the person has the skills. Certification only presents that he or she has the capability to do it. So you must be seeing that, well, many of the youngsters who come and say, well, I have to do CISSP. They are hardly not even 2 or 3 years in the industry, and they have started CISSP. Even CISSP does not acknowledge that. So you have to ensure that, well, first of all, you build the right skills, and then decide on the area of what expertise you really want to address. Because security requires sort of a cryptic thought, I would say, wherein you need to apply your mind slightly differently. So just because somebody is doing CISA or somebody is doing CISSP, it's not the right approach. You need to also see internally that what are your internal skills. Are you a more process-driven person who wants to follow systems, wants to follow the driving rules, or are you a person who possibly would like to adopt more technology approach? So basically, again, coming back to a question of whom to choose, definitely see, basically again, it's an organizational requirement, firstly. Plus, if you adopt a fresher, it's easy for us to mold, to also train, and at the same time make him far more productive in an environment which can be benefited in the long run. For short term, which is required, definitely a person who has got skills will be considered, so that, well, we ensure that we optimally utilize the resources and optimally also ensure that time is there, because time is critical in essence for ensuring that security is not compromised. So with that, the last question to you is that we mentioned that whole lot of security jobs are there in the market. Now, with all the security jobs as such, what do you look into that when you look into a particular fresher, or when you look into a particular candidate who is under your umbrella or wants to build a career, how possibly you will tune to him to the required needs as such of the organization, or also ensure that his requirements are addressed?
Sure. So if you say, my hiring technique and what I would look or what I look to build my organization, right? When I build the cybersecurity organization, first thing I look at is as a personality, right? Every person I see, whether he fits, all right, whether he fits into my organization, and that is I look at that as a more softer aspect, right? So I say, so for pen tester, I have people who come to me, and maybe in the past 2 years I would have evaluated more than 250 resumes at least, if not more, right? There have been people with 6 months experience, and there have been people with 8 years experience, right? Now, I do not go only by the years of experience or by certification. I would look at whether he has the necessary attitude and the skills. For some role, I might need somebody who's good in communication as well. So I would then look at, okay, is a person good communicator, right? I would need people with good technical skills. I would love all of my 50 people to be the best pen testers in the world and maybe hire the top 50. But if I try to do that, then I will never be able to even start my business, right? It will never fly off. So I will need all kind of people. And then depending on the role and depending on the fitment and the attitude, I would hire them, right? So say when I took look people with lower experience of freshers, right? Are they malleable? Do they carry the right attitude? Their attitude is the thing that I'm trying to judge when I'm talking to them, and that I'm able to make it. I don't need an hour. In the first 10 minutes to 15 minutes, I'm able to gauge the person's attitude. I have very interesting experiences, right? When I conduct interviews. So there was this girl I was interviewing, and she had come to me for a job, and I asked her a few questions, and I asked her a few softer questions, few technical questions, and then I asked her, okay, so technically she was not very good, though she was an engineer, but she was not able to answer most of the technical questions. So then I asked her, so what is the biggest mistake you've done in your life till now? So she said, taking up engineering was my biggest mistake. Right. But when we are talking about the education system, I feel that engineering, there is a curriculum, and if I have taken electronics and telecommunication, right? I'm a electronics and telecommunication engineer. But now, if you start taking my technical interview, I would say I'm a very poor engineer. Correct? Yeah, definitely I will fail. But I am still successful in my life. So that is where I think engineering brought in certain skills in me, which helped me to be successful. It is not the technology, right? It is not the subjects. The subjects, I have certain people who are who were very focused, who took certain subject, did not necessarily PhD, but they went into masters or they get into that field, and they are very successful, and they are technically one of the best. And if I have a technical question, I would still go back to them, right? But I think when we are talking about a mass and as big a population as India has, we are talking about various skills in people that get embedded through the education system. People at that age are very malleable, and if we can mold them in the right way, we would get the right people for the industry that we need.
Yeah, so basically, just summing up this as such, so what I would like to tell is that security is definitely a religion by itself. I would say, based on the different topics what we covered, based on the different job profiles, what it is. Security is definitely the basics CIA, and as such, and the security is nothing but also people, process, and technology, because if without all these factors working together, achieving a security which is near 100% is really, really difficult, and definitely it will require a combination of expertise and an also combination of fresh team, so that it can be looked differently. So, and at the same time, it is always a learning exercise. Okay, as he rightly said, if there is a gap of 20 plus years between the implementer and between the management, then definitely that gap has to be, I would say the gap will be there, but at the same time, it has to be bridged in a thoughtful manner. That's what is security about. Thanks a lot.
Excellent moderating.